We've probably had multiple patients in this situation, but one patient in particular I'd like to highlight he was over 65, a little overweight, but no high-risk medical conditions. And he had the opportunity to get vaccinated, and he hesitated. And approximately 6 weeks ago, he got COVID-19. He worsened over about a week and a half and was admitted to the hospital for a week and a half. In the hospital, he had every treatment known, all the latest and greatest, and he continued to worsen to the point where the doctors talked to his wife and told him that they had done everything they could, and it was now just a matter of watching. He did turn the corner, he improved, and he was subsequently discharged home, and he spent the last several weeks trying to recover to the point where he can walk out of his front door without a tank of oxygen. And I think if he could go back, he would have gotten the vaccine in preference to what he suffered. And as for my own experience, I initially had a little bit of a hesitancy as I thought about the myths I'd heard, the rationales I had heard, but it ultimately was a matter that I felt the social obligation to protect my patients and my family. My own parents are high risk as well, and I could not in good conscience expose them. That's the bugger with this virus, is you can pass it when you feel well. So simply being healthy and feeling well is not good enough. And I have had the vaccine and had modest side effects with the second dose, as many people have. So I invite you to look at your own experience. Have you already had the vaccine? How did it go? And are you having some of that vaccine hesitancy, and what's the basis of that? If it's based on fear, please talk to the partners, myself included, and see what we can help you to dispel that fear so that you can advocate for your own health care without fear and make the decision that's best for you.
Hello, it's Dr. Mary Tipton here, just answering a few questions about the COVID vaccines. We know a lot of people have concerns about this vaccine, and one of them is that it's not been proven to work and wasn't studied enough. I've heard people tell me that they think it's too new and they just don't know how immunity how long immunity will last, and so they're wondering if they should get vaccinated. So I have a few answers for you. Some of you may know I'm a vaccine researcher. I've been vaccine researching for 16 years almost. And so what I've learned is that there are key steps, to testing the vaccine. And I want you to know none of these were skipped in testing the COVID vaccines. There's a couple reasons why they were able to get these studies done so fast. One of them is that they had this big pot of money that was dedicated at the beginning to do this work. And this is because taxpayer money was set aside for this important work. And so the companies were just able to enroll crazy fast and to have all the people ready and all the steps to be done simultaneously. So they didn't have to wait for more money or to look at results before they were able to go to the next step and the next step. Because even if the vaccine didn't work out or didn't get approved, they were still going to get paid. So they did the phase 3 trials, which is the most important trial in detail. I have read these trials, reports from these companies, and based on my experience, reading other trials, I really feel that all of the essential steps were taken to ensure safety and to prove that they do work. So it was just amazing that it could be done so fast, but no essential steps were skipped. Another reason they got data so fast is that people were constantly exposed during the trial period because we had really high coronavirus rates in the country at that time. So they got, again, their data very quickly. So now, not only do we have that trial data that supported very effective vaccines, we have real world data because the vaccinations were approved in December or maybe even the end of November. And so we have like 6 months now of real world data, and that's being accumulated. And we know that these vaccines not only worked in the trials that were run by the companies that are profiting from it, but they worked in actual people doing actual things like working in hospitals and being around coronavirus patients. And so that should be really comforting as well. There have been some identification of side effects, some even really rare side effects to these vaccines, like the 1 in a million outcome of the cerebral venous thrombosis in the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So to me, this just really indicates that the system works. We have a post-marketing or post-study reporting mechanism. And so if we were able to find this 1 in a million rare event and be able to identify it just within months and start studying it, I think that should just show us that the incentives are there to make sure that this is actually safe, and that if any side effects that couldn't be identified in trials, because there's not a million people in a trial, so those rare side effects are always going to come out after trials, and that's just how it works. It's true we don't know how long immunity lasts, but we know it's quite a long time. We already know we have very good immunity for up to 6 months. It might be more. If everyone hesitates and says, oh, we don't know how long it'll last, we're not going to do it, we'll never end this pandemic. We need people to take that leap of faith and to say, hey, this is going to protect me. This is going to protect my family members. This is going to protect the people around me that I love. This is going to protect our high-risk patients, and go ahead and be vaccinated. I know that was the main reason that I felt really relieved after I got vaccinated. I wasn't so worried about myself. I was so worried about giving coronavirus to a patient or someone high risk that would get very sick, and then it would be my fault. So I was relieved because of that, and I know you will be too. And mainly, I really want life to get back to normal so we can have no masks and we can go back to work and go to vacations and travel. And I really believe that more widespread vaccination is the key to that. So I hope this helps answer some of your questions.
Hi guys, it's your friendly neighborhood pediatrician here, answering some questions that I've heard about the COVID vaccine. So should people that are pregnant get the COVID vaccine, and should people that are breastfeeding get the COVID vaccine? About pregnancy, the problem that we have is that, of course, no one wants to do studies in women that are pregnant. So there have not been any studies done by the vaccine manufacturers intentionally on women who know that they are pregnant. So the government can't say for sure that it's safe because they haven't done studies. That being said, there's no reason that the COVID vaccine should not be safe in pregnant women. We give pregnant women lots of other vaccines, and we know that those are all safe and can protect the pregnant woman and her baby too. And actually, the CDC is tracking reports of women who self-report that they're pregnant and they got the COVID vaccine. There's actually over 30,000 women that are on that vaccine registry now who have said they received it while pregnant. There have not been any side effects or any adverse effects noted in either the women or their babies. So while there's not an official recommendation that all pregnant women should get the COVID vaccine, there's no reason not to, and there's some emerging good evidence that shows that it probably offers good protection both for the baby through maternal antibodies, so through the mom's protection, and also for the mom too, because we know that pregnant women are at a higher risk of getting severe disease from COVID. For breastfeeding women, it's the same story. Nobody likes to do studies on women that are breastfeeding, but there's absolutely no reason that it should not be safe for the mother or for the baby. And there's some good data that shows that you can pass protection to COVID that you've obtained from a vaccine to your baby through your breast milk. So it should be extra good for both mom and for baby. The second question I have is, I am young and healthy, and so why do I need to get a COVID vaccine? I'm not likely to die from COVID. And that is true. Young, healthy people are less likely to die from COVID than older people. That being said, persistent symptoms from COVID are very common in young people. Up to a third of people will document that they still have one symptom left that lasts at least 3 months. And those can be fatigue, really, really strong fatigue, trouble breathing, chest pain and tightness, or loss of taste and smell. Also, brain problems are really common in young people after COVID. So if you've heard of COVID brain fog, that is super common in especially young women. PTSD, anxiety, and depression, there's some studies that show that up to a quarter of people who are diagnosed with COVID, even that don't get hospitalized from their illness, can experience those in the months afterwards. And in one study, they showed that of adult patients who were symptomatic with their COVID, under 10% were completely symptom-free at 2.5 months. So long-term symptoms are really common in even healthy young people who get COVID. And personally speaking, I don't know how many of you guys noticed that I walked around looking like death for about 3 or 4 months after COVID. I usually work out 5 days a week, and it took me 3.5 months before I was able to go back to exercising. So just because you're young and healthy, you're not going to die of it. Probably doesn't mean that 100% you couldn't die of it, and does not mean that you can't have severe symptoms or symptoms that last a really long time. So it's another great reason to get the vaccine and prevent yourself from having horrible long-term side effects and also from missing work. I'm always happy to answer any questions you guys have. So if you ever have a question about vaccine, I am always here for you.
Hi everybody, Dr. Andrews here from my car, hoping to share a little bit of information about coronavirus vaccine questions. I get a lot of questions about if I've already had coronavirus, do I need to get the vaccine? Right now, the recommendation is yes. Yes, you should get the vaccine even if you've had coronavirus illness. We believe that the vaccine will give you a more long-lasting immunity against future coronavirus illnesses, and even it's protecting against some of the new mutations or variants of the coronavirus. The next question that I get is about side effects and what do we know about this vaccine because it's new. What we can tell you is in the trials for the vaccine, the side effects were very normal compared to other vaccines. Muscle soreness, maybe some body aches, fatigue, that sort of thing. With this one, it does give us a good immune response, and so some people have a little bit more muscle soreness and body aches, similar to some other vaccines that we give, for example, against shingles. The good news is that by and large, most people have no side effects at all. And the very severe things are very, very rare. I can't enunciate that enough. Very rare. I have full confidence in the leaders of our healthcare system that they are vetting these vaccines very well. Every single day we get more and more people vaccinated, and every single month we have millions more people and more data. And we have robust data that these vaccines are safe. I highly recommend you get immunized against coronavirus vaccine for your safety, for the safety of all around us, and to help us stop this pandemic.